Hey guys, and in today's video, we are gonna be learning about passed pawns, pawn structures, like all the pawn structures, and we're gonna also be talking about how to use pawn chains. We're gonna talk about a lot of other things pawn related. So today's the day about the pawns, and the pawns can be little ones, but they can turn into little mighty queens. And eventually in the end games you win. And in the King's Indian, it's a key for white. They need to promote, else they're just gonna die. But I won't show you that because we're not studying openings today, we're studying pawns. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, in our first position, well, this is a lost endgame for black, obviously, because this boom, 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 white gets this, and now after this happens, white can just move his king side, and once we promote, we have lost our queen, and this is a winning endgame for white. But back in this position, these two pawns are both passed pawns. This one's coming in here, this one's coming in here. And what makes a passed pawn a passed pawn? Well, say if there was say there's a white pawn here, it would not, this black f5 pawn would not be a passed pawn because it's blocking here, and it can also move, try to challenge it, so that's why you cannot really do that. So anyways, what do we do then? Well, that's actually what makes a passed pawn a passed pawn. So yeah, that's what makes a passed pawn a passed pawn. It cannot be blocked. If it's blocked, it's not a passed pawn. But say we run our king here, here, try to grab this passed pawn, then it would not, and then it would be a passed pawn because now it has a clear entrance, a clear red carpet to the finishing zone. But sadly, the white pawn will win the pawn race and grab our queen, and white has a winning endgame. Black resigns in this position, and white gets that full point. So moving on to our next position. In this position, it's a crazy endgame between black and white. It's all even now, but now we're going to be talking about pawn islands. And in this one also, pawn chains. So as what I was saying, we're going to be learning about pawn chains now and pawn islands. So let's first figure out what a pawn island is. A pawn island is basically a series of connected pawns, but they're all connected so they can protect each other. Take example for this one. And take examples for these ones. See how these pawns are connected and they can always protect each other? And after this protects that. And pawn chains pawn islands, if you have less pawn islands, lesser pawn islands, you'll have more chance of having your pawns safer. And if you're a pawn up, you should never lose that advantage. Unless it's a gambit, just give the pawn back and hope for a new pawn target. Now, what's a pawn chain? A pawn chain is, see how this pawn chain is going like diagonal like this? And see how these is a pawn chain, but it attacks, like, it would go here also because this one, if it goes here, it still points to the same side. So pawn chains are another pawn structure that can help you very much, and you should pick a pawn chain. In this case, I'm gonna pick this one, and if it points somewhere like on the queen side, but in this case it's the king side, then you should make your attacks on the king side. If it's on the queen side, then you should make your attacks on the queen side. And the pawn chains may change. In the next position, you'll see that the pawn chains may change a little bit, teensy bit, and they might tell you to attack a different way, but listen to me. It's not weird, okay? It's not some wizardry, okay? It actually does work. And I learned this in a chess book. So, what do you really do now? Well, black is trying to win, but his pawns are unfortunately not that safe, and these two pawns cannot stop this horde. This rook will have to go here, try to find a crazy maneuver. But anyways, let's get to the chess. So after rook a2, we play a check. And after that, it's threatening, we don't really care. What we do is this. After this, and after this, we do this. And now I'm just going to make a few more moves. And now after takes and takes, we can do this. And now what this might happen, he's gonna try to take this pawn. We don't really care. We're gonna go after his. Bing. Bang. And now he might try to promote. Let him try all he wants, but he cannot do this. And because after chess, check, and now we restrict this king, and now we can take this, and it's a winning endgame for white because you can stop it, take the opposition, boom. We actually do care about this, so let's just give a check. And after this, let's maybe try to promote this pawn. Now he might try to do his, but all we do is this. And this is lost for him. Because now after this, once he tries to go save this, well, he will save this, but now we take this, and then we pick up this pawn, and we'll win with the rook and king checkmate. So, on to our final example. In this final example, this is actually a real game that I played on the Lichess server, and I played this, and I'm black in this position, and my opponent is white. So in this position, my opponent made the move a4, and now what I did is, now can you see this pawn chain? It's telling me to attack on the queen side. So what my plan is gonna be is to move here, castle alongside, put pressure on this knight, and probably try to do this. Maybe do this, triple up my big pieces like the queen and the two rooks. So what I first did is g5 and trying to kick the knight bishop off. And now what I do in this position is queen d7. After this move, he's probably trying to castle, but fun fact, in the actual game, he never actually castled. So now I do or long castle or queenside castle. Now I'm putting pressure on this, and later on in this game, I shifted my direction to the king side. So a couple moves later, after h4, and I just become aggressive. And don't worry, this cannot, like, it's almost a pass pawn. We just need to get this, like, Sure, he can do that, but, well, the knight has to go somewhere here, and then do this. And then we can just still have a pawn structure, and if I did not tell you, if I forgot to tell you, the weakest part of the pawn chain is the head of the pawn chain, the base of the pawn chain. And if it's not protected by another pawn, then it is the most weakest place. And if you manage to get that one with a bishop or a queen or sail or something like that, then you can gobble up this whole pawn chain. And in one game, I gobbled someone's whole pawn chain. Their pawn chain was like this. I mean, that was like how mine was. This pawn was alone, but still, it was all one huge pawn island. And I turned out to win the game. And because I gobbled some of his pawn chains, but I had a strong pawn structure, I went on to win the game in the end game because I had so many pawns. And this was the first game that I did not trade until this move. So let's move on. He did a bad move, and now that's the reason why he couldn't do that. Because this knight is basically stuck, you know? This knight is basically stuck. And also, we have double force protecting this pawn from this queen. And this knight cannot move anywhere unless this queen moves. Finally, some free space. But what I would have recommended to do is go here, maybe add some more pressure, and make it equal. But still, but maybe the knight could maneuver here, you know, try to make a better spot. But anyways, after rook HE8 and a couple moves later, now, and once I take, and now after this move G3, you can see I have a new pawn chain, but telling me to attack to the king side. So after my opponent moved there, I started to do that because I wanted to do this, then this, then this, and I also wanted to put double pressure on this pawn plus triple pressure on this pawn. This pawn actually moved down, so you'll see why. So now, after he moves down, I attack the weak pawn. He does, he's threatening to do a discovered check, but I don't really care. I do rook h7. He does that. I just move my pawn, and now I'm giving double pressure on this, no triple pressure. And this only has 2 defenders, so he had to take. And now he checked me, so I had to take back. And now he did that probably to take my weak pawn. I don't really care because I could take his. And he took it, and then he blundered his rook, so I took it. And now I take this pawn with triple force, so he can't really do nothing. So after this, now I decided to check. And now you'll see how I win the game and how it was right to attack on the king side, because after this I sacrificed my rook. Well, not really, but yeah, I gave away my rook for a less valuable piece. This pawn is gonna go motoring, and I'm gonna queen here, and I'm gonna move my queen here once I promote, and just gobble up the rest of these pawns. This pawn will also motor down, and this pawn will also motor down. And now white is basically just lost. I'm up minor piece. I'm up more pawns. That's better in the end game. And also, and back in this, if this pawn ever moved, I have this sweet outpost. And he has to check. And then I can probably do something here and probably help out and sacrifice my pawn for this one. But, I mean, sacrifice my knight for the f3 pawn. But anyways, after king b3, and this is how it all rolled out, g2. Now this, I threaten after this, and black and white resigned, and white resigned the game, and I won the game. And that's how I won with my pawn chains. Even though they shifted from queen side to king side, you can see how powerful pawns are, because this pawn was going to move around, and especially if they're close to promoting to their promotion square, like first of all, just forget about all the other pieces that are on the chessboard. And that's a really powerful pawn chain, and you never want to get affected by the head. And well, even if he tries to and just moves to this, well, this is kind of an outpost, kind of. Well, actually it is. Technically it is, but it's just a very weird outpost for a knight. And if you don't know what an outpost means, it's just basically a safe square that no pawn can attack, and the piece is guarded by a pawn that is not weak. If it's, like, say, attacked, like, say the knight couldn't go here for some reason because it was just pinned. Okay, and there was a rook down here on a7. Now this pawn would be really weak. This pawn right here, he could probably move his other rook here, put some more pressure on here. But anyways, that's it for now, and I hope to see you in the next one. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and please put on the click the notification bell so you don't miss any of my videos. Bye for now, and I'll see you in the next one.